So the first test match of the Greatest Rivalry Tour is taking place this weekend. The Springboks versus the All Blacks. Dave Rennie, he's got plenty of informed players. So does Rassie Erasmus. And in this video, we will be trying our best to predict who the All Blacks will be selecting. Now, as I mentioned, form, something we've seen quite a few players find throughout this Greatest Rivalry Tour. It makes it much more difficult to be able to put together a 23. But with me today, it is Tim from Rugbyitch. Mate, we've seen 3 wins from 3 for the All Blacks thus far. First test match, Ellis Park, up against the Springboks. It's a pretty tough ask, but do you feel the All Blacks will have some form of confidence heading into this matchup?
Yeah, no, I do. And I think the All Blacks actually, going into this match, I think it's actually one of the ones they have to target, actually, when you look at like kind of the 4 tests they're going to play in total, because, you know, they've played more games, of course, than the Boks going into this. And I think they're going to be more prepared than what the Boks will be, in general. So I think this is one that they'll definitely target. And I believe they have the best chance actually in winning this game. You have to really just be honest. I think this is the one where they're really going to target and kind of go for. But no, I think the Boks, look, they are world champions for a reason. So they'll make it very difficult. But I do believe the ABs will look at this game and be like, hey, we have a strong chance now that, you know, a lot of guys have now been tested through the games that we played against the URC teams. And yeah, I believe they'll go in it with a good shot.
Of course, injuries, something that has been kind of plaguing this All Blacks camp ever since heading to South Africa. A couple more players heading back to New Zealand. But as a whole, with the exception of a little bit of grey area around Damian McKenzie, who does seem like he should be able to play in this game, they are still looking pretty solid in terms of on paper, with the exception of a few of those injured players. But for yourself, we need a strong front row up front for New Zealand in this contest. We know how strong the Springboks scrum is, so who do you think Dave Rennie selecting for his front 3?
Yeah, look, I'm confident in this lineup. I really do feel like, I believe both of us will get pretty close actually to what Rennie will go with, and I'm pretty confident. I think there's only like 1 or 2 maybe that will be different, but I'm really confident, I guess, with the whole lineup in general. And with that front row, I think Rennie will go with Ethan de Groot at number 1, Cody Taylor number 2, and Tyrell Lomax at number 3. I just think that's the tight end trustees, what we even saw before, even Dave Rennie as well, because of course that was the front row in the World Cup final. So I just think you have to go with those 3, the most experienced. And against the Boks, they've done it before. They know exactly kind of the intensity which is needed, and particularly from a scrum standpoint, they're probably the best suited in that instance. So yeah, I think those 3 will be the 3 selected for this game.
Well, I've got the same 3. Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor, Tyrell Lomax. We didn't see a huge amount of Lomax throughout the Greatest Rivalry warm-up matches. Ethan de Groot just getting the 1 game, and same with Cody Taylor playing in the most recent match against the Bulls. Now, Cody Taylor, I mentioned about it in my video of what I would have liked to see for the All Blacks, how heading into this week before the match against the Bulls, I had a Samoa starting, and you could even argue Samisoni Taukei'aho off of the bench. Taylor's form throughout the internationals in July, don't get me wrong, the lineouts were accurate, but it seemed like something was slightly missing, and it seems like now he's found it. That game up against the Bulls, with the exception of that early penalty, he was on the money, and that is exactly what New Zealand want, that cohesion across their forward pack. The lineouts were accurate, which is a massive plus too, as you don't really want to be giving away too much free ball to the defending world champions. So overall, strong up front, but whether or not it's strong in the scrum department, it should be. But of course, we know the Springbok 4-pack, they have turned very strong scrums into looking pretty average. So these 3 have to be on the money right from the get-go. But moving on to the locks, this is where I do think Rennie will stick with consistency and a duo that he has used in 2 out of the 3 warm-up matches, that being Fabian Holland as the number 4 and Patrick Tuipulotu at 5. We'll mention Tuipulotu will not be the captain again, similar to what we saw in the game against the Bulls, as there is a certain Savia returning into the number 8 jersey. But overall, Tuipulotu, these were the games that I believe he had to be match fit for. And when you looked at the injuries that were kind of plaguing him throughout Super Rugby Pacific, there were always concerns of would he make it to South Africa? Would he be available for these tests? But he's the type of physical being that you need out there. Fabian Holland, that man was making dominant tackles all the way throughout his standout debut year for the All Blacks. He had a few handling errors in the last game, and also that moment short of his try line, which was very confusing for a lot of people. But I'd still say the thing is, there's no out-of-form lock in the All Blacks setup at the moment. You look at Derry, you look at Lord, you look at Vai, and all 3 could do the job. I think that Derry, for me, in terms of my lineup, I'm just going to say it right now, he's the one who's hard done by to somehow miss out off what has been some of his best form in an All Blacks jersey, but Holland and Tui Pilotu, I believe they will be the duo that Dave Rennie looks towards.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I think this is one of the areas, by the way, that I was discussing before where I found it tricky because, like you said, all of the locks are in form in terms of what you have to go by. And I do agree with Patrick Tupiloto. I think he has to be in just because of kind of the amount of games he's been given. And he is like, I mean, we've always said this even before this tour. It's like he is built for kind of going against the South Africans. Like he's one of the best locks, I believe, in the world in terms of like just gaining meters. Every single time he just goes for it. Like he's really good in just finding those areas within a defense. And that's kind of his strong suit, really. And yeah, you need that against the Boks. But for the number 4 spot, I actually have gone with Sam Derry here. I think it's what Rennie will see as well, I believe. Look, Fabian Holland, it's literally between the two. It's 50-50 for me and what will happen. And this is the one I was like, oh, what will Rennie do? And I think he's going to reward Derry just for the form that he showcased really throughout kind of the tour so far. And I honestly believe he's been the best lock that we've seen so far in this tour. So I think you just have to include him in some way. Either if that's starting or either if it's probably off the bench, he has to be in somewhere. I'll be very shocked if he isn't. So, and yeah, and look, they're, it's a Blues combination as well in terms of the 4 and 5s. They, obviously very kind of understand kind of how to kind of gel together in that kind of setup, and that lineup will be very important against the Boks as well because you want to kind of maintain that kind of pressure going into kind of those mauls, and yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good contest. So yeah, that's the lock and do I think they'll go with.
So for yourself as well, who do you see South Africa going with in that locking duo? Do you see Etzebeth starting in this contest, or do you think maybe they'll make a bit of a change? Maybe Visa could be in it for?
It's tricky. I mean, if I had to say honestly who's in the best form, I'd actually say it's Ruhan Nortier, who's actually been in really good form for the Boks, but also for the Bulls as well within the USC. And I just think he's the player I would put in, like personally I would put in, and I'd put him alongside Evan Epsmith if I could. Do I think Rassi will do that? I don't know. I mean, maybe he puts in, RJ Snyman, or maybe there's, like you said, Visa as well. Like there's actually a lot of options he can go with, but I think the strongest one to go with is probably Ruhan Nortier and Evan Epsmith, and then maybe like Snyman off the bench. That's what I would do, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be a good contest either way when it comes to those kind of locks.
Speaking of locks, you gave me the perfect transition there, by the way. Moving on to the loose forward trio. Have you got a lock in the number 6 jersey for Dave Rennie?
I do. And it can only be one man. It can only be Tupou Vaa'i at number 6. I don't believe any other locks have played 6 in the most recent weeks. I think Tupiloto has actually played once there before. I think they've tried him out, once in the past, but I think Vaa'i is definitely the player to put in that position, going off what we've seen through Dave Rennie and kind of other coaches as well previously. So I think Tupou Vaa'i is the 6 kind of locked down there. You got to go with Luke Jacobson. I think he's been kind of the tight end trustee again with that 7 jersey. I think he's actually had a pretty good kind of tour so far, I think, for the All Blacks. And I think he's really showcased the reason why Rennie's kind of decided to go with him at that 7 spot. And then, of course, with number 8, there's no one else you can really put in here besides Otisvia. I mean, look, you can go with – you can obviously put a word in for Peter Lakai, who's had a good kind of tour so far. Even Wallace Atiti, he's had moments, I'd say. But I just – and even like, Semesi Tupo Tailoa, he's had, a chance or at least an opportunity. But I don't think any of them would have come close really towards Otisvia. And he's still one of the best players in the world. So I think you just got to go with him there and then number 8 spots. And yeah, it's a good loose forward trio. It's just, that Tupou Vaa'i one. It's going to be interesting, like how that works in terms of kind of the against the Boks. But you got to bring size, and to do that, you got to put another lock in there. So I think Rennie will put in Tupou Vaa'i at the number 6 spot.
And it does mean normally when Dave Rennie has gone with Tupou Vaa'i as a 6, there's no locking replacement off of the bench, which does give you one more opportunity of a loose forward perhaps down the line a little bit in the lineup. But for myself, once again, we've got the same Tupou Vaa'i, Luke Jacobson and Ardie Savia. In my personal lineup, I actually stuck Anton Segner in the number 7 jersey, rewarding the form from last week. I don't really see Dave Rennie doing that unless it's a maybe bench spot in this contest. But at the end of the day, he was getting plenty of turnovers. And when you consider the fact that more than likely it could end up being Anton Segner, Paul de Villiers as the head-to-head in terms of the Jacqueline machines out there on the field. Jacobson, of course, offering that physicality to help out with someone like a Jasper Visa or a Peter Steph Toy, who will certainly be packing a punch throughout those breakdowns too. But as a whole, like you said, physicality, something that they really do need out there in this contest, having that extra bit of size to be able to try and muscle up with this overall very large Springbok pack. But moving on to the 9 and 10 combination, this is where I think we will see the Canes duo once more. Cam Roigard 9, Ruben Love number 10. I don't see there being a chance that Richie Mo'unga gets the curveball thrown into this lineup. I know that they're talking about him potentially for the match against the Lions, but I would be very surprised if Rennie was to all of a sudden chuck him in. It would bring a little bit of something different. They certainly wouldn't be expecting it, the South Africans, but I think that Ruben Love's done enough. His kicking tee work so far throughout this tour, as well as just in July, has been extremely solid. Cam Roigard returning from that injury. If he was to pick up another little injury here, I think that would really hurt the All Blacks' chances in these 4 matches. But at the same time, someone like a Kyle Preston has really held his own and certainly deserves a shot in this game too. But overall, Roigard, Love, attacking-minded players, and I think that that bodes very well with the style that Dave Rennie's trying to get this team to play.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think you have to go with Roigard at 9 and Love at 10. I think that is the combination that the All Blacks want to go into this kind of tour in against the Boks and kind of see how well it does at the end of the day. Because look, this is a very important tour for both sides. But of course, both teams are also thinking ahead in terms of kind of the World Cup. And if this goes well for the All Blacks in terms of that 9-10 combination, I won't be surprised that's what we see within the World Cup as well. But you do have the argument, of course, of Richie Mo'unga, who's like that kind of asterisk, but in a good way, in terms of what he can actually provide for the All Blacks. And yeah, look, he may even come off the bench. I mean, honestly, I would not be surprised. Like he's that good of a player where they could just slot him in and be like, yeah, we're going to give you the kind of the reins and just kind of the freedom to do what you want off the bench. But it's a tricky situation. But I do think for now they will go with Ruben Love. Because like you said, he's been really good from a kicking standpoint and had a good 50-22 as well from the last game, I believe, or at least the game before. It was one of the two. But either way, he's been great throughout this tour. And like you said, with Roigard, you want to manage his injury. He is a bit, there is a bit of caution, I would say, around him, but still, he's one of the most important players from the All Blacks. So I do believe that is the combination you have to go with, and I believe what Rennie will go with as well.
And the fact that he has backed it so many times already, I feel like it's given us just that little bit of a clue, which is something that we can get for these centres as well. I feel like at this point in time, we might as well just say it. Geordie Barrett, number 12. I don't think there's any denying that whatsoever. And up until before that Bulls game, it would have been number 13, Quinn Tupaia. Now, of course, we've already seen that Billy Proctor injury, which has set him back to New Zealand. But in that Bulls matchup, a certain Rieko Ioane putting his name back into the equation and actually making his way into a lot of people's 23s for this match against the Springboks, which I think at the start of the tour, he wasn't featuring in that many. And I know that as a big Rieko Ioane fan yourself.
He proves people wrong. That's what he does. This is what I love about him. Like every time people's like, no, he just isn't cut out for the All Blacks. I'm like, are you guys, I just don't understand it. Like he's the perfect player in terms of that 13. But like you said, he's now been playing more as an 11. So he really adds a lot of flexibility towards what they can do. But have you chosen him in your 13 spot or no?
No. I've gone Quinn Tupaia. Safe option.
And I'm the same. I think you have to go with Quinn Tupaia number 13. I just think that combination's kind of, I guess now is considered kind of the combination that Rennie likes the most. And yeah, it's a dangerous one. It's a really dangerous combination when you look at it. Like 2 battering rams in there. Geordie Barrett really just X-factor player in terms of his kicking ability, finding kind of space for the defense. And yeah, it's a good combination. But you are right. Rico's definitely may kind of, put his hand up really for that spot if needed. But I also think he can slot him into one of the winger spots if needed as well. So yeah.
Well, transitioning to the back 3 now. I realised I went first in terms of the centre pairing, so I guess you can go first for the back 3 if you like. Have you got a Rieko out on the left wing?
I have. This is the tough one. I think it's one of those where, and this is the one we were talking about off camera, like where there's the decision where I'm not 100% certain, but I feel like going off form of what I've seen throughout every game in terms of what he's been able to do, I would put Rieko at the number 11 spot. I think the other player, which is the obvious one that you have to mention, is Leroy Carter. I just think he's been great throughout this tour as well. And I guess you could say Josh Morby, but again, he's really not been in that 11 spot as often. He's been more as kind of the 15 or 14 in this case. So that's why he's not my thinking really in that position. So I really do think it's between Rieko and Carter. And I honestly do think it's a 50-50. Either way, I'm more than happy to put Carter in there. No problem with that. I just think against the Springboks, you want a bit of experience, and I think Rico's, he just has that over most of the players really when it comes towards wingers. So I think you've got to go with him there. And then Will Jordan, number 14, really can't go wrong with him. Top try scorer for the All Blacks, and I think he'll continue to do that. So he's definitely the 14. And 15, I've gone with Mackenzie here, and I think that's what Rennie will go with. Again, we did stipulate that in our thinking that Mackenzie will be available going into this kind of selection. If he's not, then I guess in my case, I would probably consider, I don't know if Rennie would do it. I mean, I would put Will Jordan at 15 and then Morby as the 14. But I think for Rennie, he actually may put Morby as the 15 and just keep Jordan at the 14. But we'll see what happens. But either way, I think you got to go with Mackenzie there, the number 15 spots. Yeah, I think that's what Rennie will go with.
And it's exactly what I think Dave Rennie will go with as well. Rieko Ioane, left wing, Will Jordan, right wing, Damian McKenzie as that number 15. Now, someone who hasn't been mentioned is Fehi Whinianofo, who is actually not in bad form either. All of these guys are scoring multiple tries from that winger spot, which makes it very challenging for Dave Rennie to actually decide exactly who to go with. Now, one concern I have about Rieko out on the wing, you hear me say it all the time, but the reason I think he does quite well at outside centre is because he's not pummeled by the high ball. Whereas that was something that Leroy Carter in the game against the Bulls did so incredibly well, being able to shut down that ball from the get-go. Ioane, does he still have that aerial ability that's required to play the Springboks? I'm going to ask you that question. Do you think that will be somewhere that the Springboks look at and go, he's the guy we want to target with those kicks?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it from the back three standpoint in terms of like what you have Will Jordan and McKenzie, then yes, you got to look at Rieko as kind of like the weak link in terms of kind of the aerial ability compared to those two. But I do still think Rico's a solid enough player to kind of make a difference in the 11 spots. And I think you're right. Leroy Carter's been great. I think that's one of the attributes really that he has over Rieko, I guess, from an aerial standpoint. But I think a lot of other attributes really swing towards Rieko in his favor in terms of like kind of his speed, his just defensive kind of just IQ, really, just in terms of just positioning. I think there's just more to the game with Rieko. And again, that's really only because he's had much more time in an All Blacks jersey. It's nothing against Leroy Carter, by the way. It's just he's a great player. It's just more Rico's had more time in that kind of position as well as the 13. So he's just more familiar with the setup. But no, it's gonna be a tricky game either way because again, the Boks they'll probably go with Curtly and Cheslin, so he's gonna have it's gonna be a tight battle either way in stopping those two. I don't know how it will go because even like when Leroy Carter played against the Springboks last, I watched the game twice now, the full game. In terms of that, well, it's because it's just a great game to watch as a Boks fan. But Carter was not good in that game. Like he scored the opening try, which of course was a great moment for him in terms of getting his debut try. But the rest of the game, he just got like it was like, for example, the aerial game for him in that one was not good. So that's where he's at least improved since then. So that's at least the good thing about Leroy Carter and kind of the improvement we've seen on him. But just it's going to be an interesting game. I mean, either way, it's going to like both these teams are the best in the world, I believe. So I'm looking forward to it.
I think we're going to see more than one player too fall into that category. It's guys who have looked really strong up against the URC sides, and then you chuck them up against South Africa, which just makes it a whole different beast. Yeah. We see it time and time again, players who are in very good Super Rugby form, they put on the international kit, and sometimes it doesn't quite translate. And you talk about this game, it's the first test match of a series. It's the greatest rivalry tour. It's at altitude. It's against the world champions in their own backyard. Like, there are plenty of things that are stacking up that should make this quite a tough game. But the cream will hopefully rise to the crop out of these. Is that the saying? Cream to the crop? Is it cream to the top? Is it top? That might be the top, is it?
Cream of the crop, I believe. Not top.
The what?
Cream of the top.
We're going to have to Google it. The cream always rises to the top, and we're going to have to see cream, I think cream of the crop, isn't it?
Yeah, cream of the crop. That's what I'm saying. But I never heard the.
Yeah, so it's cream of the crop, but there's also cream to the top.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. What one do we say? I don't even remember now, but something about cream.
We're making some bars here. This is like.
Yeah. It's going to become a rap battle shortly, but we'll move on to the bench while we're at it. Who have you got as your front rowers that Dave Rennie will bring off the bench, Tim?
Yeah, so I think Rennie will. Look, I think this is one where. I think Rennie will go with Chevenir Mia. I think he's been really impressive, I think, throughout the tour so far. And I think that's someone that he'll go with. I think you got to go with Takeaho as your hooker. I mean, he just has to be the guy. I mean, look, you could go with Safon Moore, who has looked good, but like you said, I think Takeaho just more experienced in that role, and I think will do a lot more damage, I believe, off the bench. And then, yeah, I've gone with Fletcher Newell to finish off. I think that's what Rennie will go with. I would have considered maybe Pasialo Tosi there. I like him a lot, but I just think what Rennie will go with, I think Fletcher Newell is probably more his guy. So yeah, I think that's the front row off the bench.
Well, we've got one difference, Tim. It's the hooker. Asafo Moore as the number 16. Okay. I just feel like current form for him the thing is, Takeaho's in the same boat, though. Both of them feel like their form's been too good
it's a 50-50.
To deny. It could easily be, like you said, a bit of a coin flip for the two of them. Xavier Numia, number 17, and Fletcher Newell, 18. Numia's work in the scrum up against the Bulls was solid enough that I think's pretty much
that's why I think he gets in
that spot.
Yeah.
No Ollie Norris, too. And then I guess your only real other option currently is maybe Bauer. So if they want experience, they may look at Bauer in that department instead, but Xavier Numia would certainly do a decent job, and then Fletcher Newell for that scrummaging. That's one of the main things that he's been known for, so scrummaging up against the box will certainly be quite entertaining. But moving on to the rest of the forward replacements, this is where I've gone number 19, Anton Segner, number 20, Peter Larkai. I've gone with two loose forwards, seeing as they've got Tupavai in the starting lineup. It means you've already got the three locks, and I will mention I am going 5-3 split. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not the All Blacks will go 6-2. The last time they tried the 6-2 split, it didn't exactly end well. But at the same time, we talked about it in a live stream last weekend. I believe the key for New Zealand in this contest is to not play into South Africa's game. Because currently, the tactics that New Zealand are using, they're working pretty well. But as soon as you start taking away your own tactics to try and counter a tactic that a side has used for multiple years and used to the highest level, you're going to leave yourself a little bit exposed. So this is where I believe 5-3 is still the answer. You got to back those guys. And with the fact that they haven't got an extra lock, in a way, I kind of consider this like a 6-2 in a way, or a 6-3 per se, because of the fact that you're expecting Vai, Holland, and Tuipulotu to hopefully go the full 80 if they need to. So overall, I think that maybe Larkai for Satiti could be a thing that we see, or even maybe they go Black at a 19 just to add that bit more grunt off of the bench, and then Anton Segner. I think you got to reward him, don't you, after the way he played last week?
See, this is the other one I found tricky as well, because I do agree Peter Larkai gets in. He's my 20 in this position. But then, the 19 spot. I haven't got him with a lock, by the way. So same as you, I don't think they'll go with a lock due to the reason. So if you already have three kind of in the starting lineup, I would go with Anton Segner, as I think he's been great. But the problem is, do I think Rennie will go with him? I think there is sometimes, you're going to reward a player for doing well, but then sometimes you just miss out. I just don't know if he... See, in my mind, I think he'll probably go with someone like Wallace Satiti there. I think that's who I'm thinking. It'll be like Satiti and Larkai. I'm going to stick to it just because it's what I believe Rennie will go with, not what I believe. I would have gone with Segner without a shadow of a doubt. Segner can't play 6. That's the thing. He can't play 6. That's what he's done for the Blues. No, I'm going to stick to what I had down here because I just think it's what Rennie will go with. So I'm going to go with Wallace Satiti, number 19 spots, and then Peter Larkai, same with you, and then number 20. I just think you have to go with them too. I think in terms of kind of versatility, and like you said, if one of the locks gets injured early on, you can at least put Vai in right away in that spot, or vice versa, you can put in one of the loose forwards off the bench. So I think those two can just bring damage and kind of bring a lot of let's just say ball carries within that kind of second half if they were to kind of get into that position. So
and it could be absolutely crucial as well with the fact that this game's being played at altitude, to have those guys fresh off of the bench to be able to up that tempo, as that's when normally the lungs start burning for the opposition too. We saw in the game between the All Blacks and the Bulls, of course, this is not what's going to happen on the weekend, but the Bulls by their halftime patch have made double the tackles. The All Blacks have beaten 20-plus defenders. Like, that's got to hurt the lungs, whereas the Bulls actually seem to get a little bit stronger as the match wore on. So there's kind of a weird factor of altitude, how sometimes it can hurt a side, sometimes it can help them. But I do think having guys like a Larkai, Satiti, Segner, those type of players who love to go the full 80 minutes at that same speed that they started the game at could be massive for Dave Rennie as a whole. But moving on to the back replacements. This is where I believe Dave Rennie will go number 21, Kyle Preston, really at this stage his only option, with the fact that Ratima's got the injury. Hotham's still probably going to be pretty fresh off a plane, so I don't see them chucking him in the deep end, and then Leroy Carter would be that other option. Maybe that's a way to get Carter in the team, because I'll give a bit of a spoiler. He's not my 22 and he's not my 23. And for me, he's one of those guys who would be extremely unlucky to miss out. I don't see a way that they select him as a replacement back off the bench without it being from that replacement halfback role. So unfortunately for him, I think he's going to be missing from this first match. Number 22, Anton Leonard-Brown. This is where Timothy Tavatanawai would have been a great option to be able to use, although it doesn't seem like he's that high up on Rennie's pecking order at the moment, whereas Anton Leonard-Brown, to his credit, he has been able to step up throughout 2026, had some very solid showings, a man of the match performance earlier on in the tour too. And then number 23, this is where I believe we'll see Josh Morby. He does offer you the wing, he offers you the fullback, and he also just seems to be able to change the tempo when he makes his way onto the park. So with him and Preston, those two last 20 minutes, expect quite a few fireworks for this All Black side, and also held together with some stability of Anton Leonard-Brown in there too.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think we've both in agreement in terms of Kyle Preston. He just has to be the one selected here. I mean, there's not really another option, like you said, unless Noah Holman is like, just, I don't know, looks good in training for some better than Kyle Preston. Like, wow, this guy's like, is really doing something there. But no, I think you got to go with Kyle Preston. Number 22, this is where, like, see, now you're saying Anton Leonard-Brown. I'm scared he's probably going to be in now. I actually didn't put him in. I actually put Bowden Barrett here. I just think they're going to probably go with, like, I just think it's a ready selection. I just feel like in this case, I mean, but to be fair, Anton Leonard-Brown is also a ready selection as well. So, but then, yeah, same with you. I've then finished it off with Josh Morby because, again, he gives kind of that cover really for the 15, and the winger spots as well. But, yeah, Bowden, I don't know. Look, he's actually pretty good actually in that Bulls game. So I think a lot of people were really, what was it? I think it was the Stormers game where people were just not a fan of kind of what he did in that one. But then I think a lot of people have now turned their heads like, okay, actually he could still do something for us really from that last game. So I think Rennie will look to him maybe off the bench. And again, this is the first test. I think this is the one, like I said, the All Blacks will be targeting in terms of getting one over the box. So. Yeah, I think you've got to have a lot of experience off the bench, I think, and that's the reason why I think Rennie will look towards Bowden in that case. But I wouldn't be surprised if Anton Brown, of course, is named as well.
Okay, you mentioned about in your starting lineup if McKenzie was injured, whether you go with Will Jordan or whether you go with Josh Morby as that 15. Is there a slight chance that we see Bowden Barrett start in this test match?
At 15, you mean? Yeah, no, there is. I would not be surprised about that. But again, that's obviously on the stipulation that McKenzie is just not available. And again, for this kind of video, we've both agreed that McKenzie is available because it looks like it. But again, we could be wrong in that case. That's why, yeah, no, I think Bowden Barrett definitely can put his hand up for it. And yeah, it is probably what. I mean, like, now that I think about it, I mean, I would go with Morby, of course, in that. Well, I would probably go with Will Jordan, actually. I'd go Will Jordan and then Morby at the 14. But, yeah, if what Rennie's going to do, then, yeah, I think you would have maybe gone with Bowden there at the 15 and then, the same kind of wingers. And then, but even like Leroy Carter, I think he's the one that really misses out here. I mean, look, he's had a really good tour. It's just more about kind of position-wise, like what you're looking at in terms of covers. So, yeah, he's unfortunate in that case, but yeah, it's gonna be a good test. I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, because even someone like an Amoni Narawa, we haven't even mentioned the man's name yet, and he seems to be like he was progressing nicely.
He looks good, injury. But the problem is that he's not. I think it's fair to say he's not been like. I wouldn't say he's automatically like he's not like had a game where like for example like Segner or a game like I don't know. Who's another player that stood out? Like Cody Taylor, for example. Like they haven't had games where they're like, whoa, okay. He's made the name for himself to kind of be in the conversation. I don't think Moni Nawa's had that, but again, that maybe just comes down towards maybe the minutes he was given as well. So yeah.
It's gonna be tricky. I think we're gonna be kind of close though. I feel like, as I mentioned earlier on, the side has almost kind of written itself on paper already. I would say about probably 15 to 20 players are already penciled in, and now it's just that question mark of a few of those other positions. I would say Caleb Clark was probably going to be
he would have been the
11th
11.
Wing.
He would have been the 11.
But, of course, the curveball.
Feel bad. I would have loved to see him just like get one of those kickoff ones, but But no, I think in this case, like we said, it is going to be between Leroy and Rico in that position. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they go with in there. But what just quickly before we end this, I wanted to just get your prediction right away. I want to give an early prediction right now. What would you just say is kind of which way? Let's just say the score line, because I think I mean we can obviously say I think you'd like to think the ABs would win in your case. Just more about like what do you think the score line will be?
I think it's going to be quite close. And I do think that this is the type of game that will go down to the wire. I know that it's very difficult to give a prediction before seeing either lineup, because for all we know, Rasi might be putting out an experimental side.
7-1.
Saying that we're testing the depth. Yeah, well, it could happen. We haven't seen a 7-1 for a while from Rasi, but I guess that's because of the cover off the bench, isn't it? You probably have Andre Estes in the forward pack in that case, whereas he's been playing more in the centre role. But yeah, I think this has to be close. Like, at the end of the day, there are a couple outliers in terms of the overall history of these two sides, but a majority of the games do go down to that kind of 5 to 10 point margin, sometimes even less. But momentum-wise, you'd say the All Blacks probably have a little bit more heading into this contest, and I don't think that's too bad to say, seeing as South Africa have only had the one game in recent times up against the Argentines, who did push them pretty nicely. I think that was a bit more also down to the fact that Argentina played their hearts out in that game, and again, South Africa with a relatively settled side across the 15 starters, which may not be a mile away from what we see here, with the exception of a few players added in, like a Colby, like a Jasper Wiese, everyone along those lines. But overall, it's going to be a good one. And I do think that altitude is really going to be the tester. I'm still undecided. I've gone back and forth all throughout this week about who's going to be winning this contest. I have put off doing my overall prediction for like the 4 matches till, well, it's already Wednesday almost when this video is coming out, and I still haven't done it. Still making the choices, but no, tough to call. Are you swaying a little bit in the AB's favour, did you say, just because of
I've been very upfront in saying I think if there's a game that I think the ABs will get the win in, I think it will be this one. So that's why I would favor the ABs in this game. I think really the second and the third test, I think that's where the Boks will grow stronger. I think that's what we've normally seen. Like even like what's a good example? Like you saw the Lions tour. I mean, back in the day, like, and I know that's years ago now, but like, the Lions won that first game, and then the Boks came back and won kind of the second and the third. I can see a similar kind of scenario in that sense. That's why I believe kind of the ABs will do good actually in this first game and get kind of, it'll be a close game, like you said, maybe by a close margin, but I do believe the ABs, in my opinion, I think they're favored to win this first test. And then, I guess that USA game, that's one where like counts as part of it. And to be fair, if one team is winning 2-1, then you really want to win that to kind of even the series. But I think as a Boks fan, I can definitely tell you that if we win all 3 within South Africa and we lose the USA one, I think we'll be okay with it. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world, because I think they want to win kind of every game in South Africa, of course. But no, I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to this, and it's going to be good. It's going to be really good.
Both sides undefeated at this stage of the year as well. Yeah. Someone will have to suffer that first loss.
4 draws
place this weekend. Imagine that. Imagine the scenes. If even we get one draw.
It'd be great rugby if that's the case. Like that'd be like, unless it's like really low scoring, then actually just ignore what we just said there.
Couple
but like
nil-alls to start us off. Old school, like the old Greatest Rivalry Tours.
It's 3-all. Wait, what?
But yeah, we will soon find out exactly who these two sides are naming in their starting lineups. Rasi waiting until roughly when the All Blacks announce it too, rather than the early lineup like we are used to seeing. But as soon as they are announced, of course, we will be letting you know on the channel. But a big thank you to Tim from Rugbyitch for popping on the channel once again. Of course, do also let us know who you think Dave Rennie will be selecting in the comments down below. But if you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you all for the next one.